We're all going through a rather difficult time right now. And on this day, April 2nd, 2020, I have decided to focus on a more positive message: surviving it. This episode 20 is being published today from Berlin, and we are also affected. We all should, of course, take heed to the advice of the relevant authorities, thinking not only of ourselves but also of the larger society. Needless to say, there is a prevailing sense of loss, fear, and uncertainty. However, I have chosen today to take a positive outlook, to focus on the things we do know and the things we do have now, and some of the things that will help us to get to where we want to be. What if this affliction were one of those that also affected the internet, so vital a communication tool right now? In charting the way forward, I'd invite all of us to look at the positive, more uplifting aspects as they exist today. The ones that do, as we speak, help us to share the burden and learn from each other. Now let's be clear about one thing. It's neither within my scope, authority, nor experience to speak to all of these things, only a few. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Sasha for helping me to use these tools that I have today to do just that. All right, well, the topic is surviving it. Remote work, friends and family, tools and tips that help now. Now, to get straight into the point, straight into the topic, I'm going to ask you immediately, as a man who has lots of experience with remote working, what can work really fast? Because there are people who just have to come into it now. And I just need your experience on what works fast. Hit the ground running, as we say. Start with this really fast, and we know some of the things that work. Some of us are struggling right now with, friends and family. I know you have a lovely daughter, Zoe. Is that how you pronounce her name? Yeah. You have a lovely daughter. She's at home with you. You're home with your partner and everything. How do you coordinate that now with working from home with family? How do you stay in contact with friends?
It's also, when you work at home, what I experience is that you can focus. Actually, right now you can focus more on work, because the responsibility that you feel that you was given a trust by the employer, for example, because you work from home, maybe because of some environment things, but still you're working from home, and your team expect that you will provide maybe good productivity. You still will be productive, so you can focus more. This works for me. I understand that I have to be more focused because I have less time, less silent time at home right now. It also gives the good thing, I spend more time with the family, and I actually started enjoying this maybe on the third week. Because it comes to you slowly, and you suddenly understand that, well, you're with your family. You see how your daughter is growing, and you see this every day and for a long hours. Do small steps. Now the time that you shouldn't do anything fast, I think. Well, it's kind of tricky, because the crisis, you kind of have to react fast, but then you shouldn't react so that it breaks you.
Und jetzt ganz kurz auf Deutsch. Dies ist ein englischer Podcast, der sich hauptsächlich an Englischlernende richtet. Er soll Training durch Konversation bieten. Das heutige Thema ist Fernarbeit oder die sogenannte Remote Working. Bitte teile mir deine eigenen Erfahrungen mit über den Feedback-Link auf der Shownotes-Seite. Ich freue mich drauf.
Herzlich willkommen zum English Coach Podcast, präsentiert von trainingtree.de, die personalisierte Lösung im Bereich Erwachsenenbildung. Und jetzt dein Gastgeber, iAntonio Patterson.
Well, hello there. Welcome to episode 20 of the English Coach podcast, Living the Language, where I attempt to add a splash of color and life to your learning experience by inviting you to live the language. Where it's all about learning to dance with the language, where learning doesn't have to feel like work, and where I help you to help yourself not only to learn, but also to hold on to the things you've learned. All things considered, this episode today takes a more positive outlook. It presents and exemplifies working and currently relevant language in use. The content today should be interesting to software developers and the like, relevant to anyone remotely interested in exploring the possibilities that remote work now provides. And last of all, it should be helpful to anyone looking to improve their English skills through real conversation on true-to-life themes that are of interest to them. Sasha Bondar is a software developer with over 15 years of experience. During his career, Sasha has held different roles in the area of software development, as consultant, in education, and in business. First of all, Sasha is a software developer. He codes a lot and loves it, so much so that he's currently building an online learning platform on Telegram to teach Go programming language. Interesting fact, he will himself learn Go along with students. Sasha has also delivered many company courses where he's taught and inspired more than 100 students to code in Ruby. In the capacity of interim CTO, Sasha has helped many customers to build scalable software products, establish remote teams, and work processes. He sees himself as a developer's advocate. He currently works for a company which he himself also co-founded called REINTECH, bridging the gap between developers and other companies. It's a hiring platform where companies or projects abroad can access and hire highly skilled software developers from Eastern Europe. At REINTECH, he is chiefly responsible for building a developers community and helping developers to find their first job on the platform. He also offers consultancy to customers on how to build a verifiably productive remote team of developers. At this moment, Sasha, like most software engineers in the world, works from his home in Lviv, doing coding and other work routines he combines with playing with his daughter Zoe. The talk for today is tools and tips, surviving it. We all know what it is. So without further ado, our guest for today, joining us remotely from lovely Lviv in Ukraine, Mr. Sasha Bondar. Yes, fantastic, Sasha. It's so nice to have you here today. I am gonna just start by, well, first of all, asking you, what's the weather like in the Ukraine today?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And the weather, the weather is good. It's a sunny day today, so everything is perfect.
Fantastic, fantastic. Over the past week, we've had the best of weather. There was no cloud in the sky, and people were walking out, but not so many in pairs. Yes, only today. Actually, I think I saw a little snow today.
I
Yeah.
saw I saw some snow a few days ago, so that was maybe the same one.
Yeah, yeah, it's really strange, really strange. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I am really happy again to finally have you here. What I would like to talk about today, so as we all know, we're in a difficult time now. We are both lucky enough to have some experience with remote working that so many people are called to do right now. So my aim for today is actually, to just give some tips of, tips for people who have to now get into this way of remote working give them some, some little hints from our experience, what we think can work, how they can get started with this kind of remote working very quickly. Are you up for that?
Sure. Let's do this. Let's get some ideas and tips.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right. Well, the topic is surviving it. Remote work, friends and family, tools and tips that help now. Now, to get straight into the point, just straight into the topic, I'm going to ask you immediately, as a man who has lots of experience with remote working, can you think of any success stories that you want to share with us right now? Just give you an idea of what I mean in terms of, for example, the diversity of the project mix and the places from which the people took part, maybe some of the tools that you used, and programs, whatever kind of success story you have from remote working. Is there anyone to share with us?
Okay, sure. I will tell you a story about the project we started, I think 2 years ago. The team that was working on this project it's actually still distributed across the globe. So there is a part of the team of Vietnam, Argentina, Ukraine, Singapore, and Silicon Valley. So like all possible time zones, and New York, and New
And New
York. So
York.
yes. So I would not say it's easy, and but it's challenging to work in this kind of environment. The thing is, what, but it's actually step by step. We managed to build a process that worked for this project, and it actually became productive and well organized. So the things that made this project productive is that what is most important is that there is a special role in this project called kind of Scrum Master, or you can call it anything. But this is the person who take care about orchestration of all those people. So what this person is doing, he's responsible for scheduling meetings, for defining tasks, and for the communication between parts of this big team. During the time, the team configuration changed. So we came to the configuration where like not all those locations work in this team right now, but in different times there was those parts working.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I would say, this is a success story that completed as a success. It built a process that worked, and it's
Mm-hmm.
still working.
So if I understand you correctly, that project is still going on?
Yes, it's still going on.
Ah, fantastic. And where is the Scrum Master? Is he in Germany? Is he in New York?
It's in New York. He's sitting in New York.
How large is this team, if I might ask? How many people?
I think it's around 10 software developers.
And something ongoing. All
Yes.
right. Well, the good thing about that is, well, if it started 2 years ago, again, if I understand you correctly, you now know exactly what works and what doesn't.
Yes, because during this period of time there was different things happened. Like there was challenges, of course, but with this client we solved them, and we finally came to the configuration that worked best.
Yes, yes, yes. From my experience, listening to a lot of people now talking about remote working, they always talk about flexibility and, changing the ability to change quickly or to get extra resources when you need them, and also to maybe to reduce the amount of resources you need. So
Yes,
when you say change configuration, what exactly do you mean?
this is exactly what you mentioned, like reducing or increasing resources, people in specific location. So, for example, what remote work allows you to do is to test different things. For example, we had a team in Nepal, but then we stopped working with this team. instead, we hired more developers in Ukraine, but not limited to one city or like one company. So those new people were hired in different cities. And because of this distribution and like the good thing and the most important thing that we used during these 2 years is that access to better talent, checking different ways of hiring, and then hiring the most experienced people in different places.
Understood, understood. Now, from the little experience I have, well, well, not really so much little, but I do have some friends who are developers. Right now, I'm teaching English to, sometimes groups of like 17 to 30 developers at one time, over virtual reality or conferencing systems and so on. And when I talk to these people, they say to me one of the biggest problems that they experience with remote working is getting clear instructions of what to do, right? So I get the feeling that you have to have someone maybe sitting with the client who decides how to communicate the requirements clearly and concisely for the developers, for them to understand what exactly they need to do. Is this the same Scrum? What do you call it? Is it the same Scrum Master you're talking about, or is it the team lead in this case?
So you actually point to the very main reason or main point of this remote work, because this communication and understanding tasks, this is let's say, one of the biggest challenge. And Scrum Master, he actually can't handle because this is different roles. The Scrum Master handle the process, but the process is not the meaning. So he handle meetings. He makes sure that everyone participate on the meetings, and he know what happened to anyone, like if someone should maybe skip meetings, so the reasons about this, maybe rescheduling meetings, setting up agenda for the meetings, defining what to do in general, but this person can't handle the deep understanding of the project.
Okay.
In most cases. So it's very important that there are team leads in the team who can help this Scrum Master. So when I say Scrum Master, this is kind of a role for communication. This is organizer.
Mm-hmm.
It could be different names for this role, but it's someone who organizes the process. But then it's important to hire developers. Not every developer should do this, but developers who can deeply understand the project, deeply understand the requirements, to be in a very close, even emotional connect with the founders, with the product team, with the customers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Understood.
then he translates this to other developers.
Yes, yes, yes. I have heard of the term Scrum Master before. I've heard some keywords like the agile development and
Right.
waterfall
Right.
approach and so on. Well, we don't really have to go into that right now, but in terms of the real communication of, let's say, one particular requirement of a new function or of a new feature, for example. My question is, how is that quickly and efficiently communicated? If it's not really the Scrum Master's task, who is gonna make sure that when I say I want my button in blue with a curve on the top left, right? Who is gonna make sure that the remote developer understands exactly what I mean?
Well, this particular example, when the task is that simple, the Scrum Master can handle it. So he can just add a ticket to, let's say, Jira, and assign a specific developer to work on this ticket, or just it depends on the process, but he can add this ticket to the backlog, and then team when meet for the planning, they just decide that someone will take this ticket. But when we say for a little bit bigger task, sometimes it just requires more communication between a team lead, maybe developers, to a product owner or CTO or the people who are more close to customers.
Understood, understood. Now you just mentioned there Jira, which was actually something I wanted to ask you about because if we are, we want to help people to get into this remote working quickly. Now I know that Jira is something that is used by developers. I also know that sometimes if there's a file to be attached, they might use or you might use Google Drive file sharing or a lot of people are getting into Microsoft Teams right now. Really quickly, I even got into Microsoft Teams recently, even though I don't really have a huge team. What would you suggest for people? Anyone who wants to, maybe let's say for example, let's say they had a developer who was responsible for maintaining the conferencing system, and this developer is sick. What system would you recommend for this kind of remote communication? Email or Teams or
Okay. Um, so when we speak about these tools, there are different meaning and purpose for those tools. So, for example, Jira and Microsoft Teams, or we also can mention Slack as a communication tool. The Jira is built mostly for task tracking, so where you track tasks, and this is absolutely important when someone goes into remote, like by his own or because of the environment. It's absolutely important to introduce any of this tool, like for example, like Jira or like Basecamp to track tasks. Like we have the rule for all the teams that developer can't work on any task without this task being written in the task tracking system. So in terms of selecting what to choose, I would suggest, let's say, if you don't know anything, just go with Jira or a Basecamp, because it's a lot of depend on the environment in the company. You could go with something like Microsoft has, sure, they have the tools, and if you're a partner with Microsoft and use their services, you will use a Microsoft software for that.
So what if I were to come to you? If I come to you and I say, well, listen, I'm in a crisis. I need to start remote working, but and I want to work with some developers, maybe some developers that you provide through REINTECH, for example. However, I use Microsoft Teams, and you're telling me now that the best thing for task tracking is Jira or Basecamp. Would you be willing to set up this system for me?
Well, if your system already works, I would not change it, because remote work itself, it just provides you so much more stress for the beginning, and if you change software, that there is no need on this.
I agree with you. I agree. That was the same thing I told a friend the other day. Listen, if it works, don't change it. Just go with it. If everybody's already using it, just go with
Exactly,
that.
exactly.
Because yeah, the learning curve is just way too much. All right, fantastic. That's a good start. As you answered the question quite clearly. However, I have some general things to ask. Now, I'm just gonna throw these out, and you can, because these are things people think about before they trust or extend themselves. First of all, there's like security. That's the first keyword. The second keyword is quality control. Yeah. Preparation, workflows, yes, speed, and cost control. Yes, these are things people think about. Is there anything that you can probably add to that? Yeah, security was the first one, quality control, preparation, workflows, speed, and cost control.
Well, the one more thing that I can add to this list is onboarding.
Onboarding.
Yes, it's depend. That's when you work remotely, because if you work with existing team and you suddenly start to work remotely with that team, that's more or less clear about how you work at all and what the work process looks like. But when you hire a new person and you hire this person remotely, the onboarding process, this is the process when you inject a new person into your processes. You show how everything works. You show who is responsible for what. You show how things are used to in your team. And this process is very important for the new team members. So this is onboarding.
Yeah, it's kind of I kind of course that is natural. It's like, well, an introduction to how the processes work. Maybe you have to tell them, yeah, actually we use Microsoft Teams for that. And you have to show them how it works, who is who to report to, and
yes, it's about tools, it's about places where to find documentation, it's about the process, how to review code, like a lot of small things that you don't pay a lot of attention when you work in the office, because you share this naturally, just like on the one table. Hey, how should I do this? And you can answer just very quickly. In remote, you even don't know, you could be not aware that these things exist, those questions exist.
Understood. Onboarding. Yeah, somehow I didn't think of that, but that's definitely something that's important. All right, well, you know what? Sasha, let's again, just to sum up on what you said. One of the more important things you said is that if there is a communication system existing that already works, you would not change, for example, from Microsoft Teams over to Jira. If it works already, we just go with it, right? That's correct.
That's correct. The only one comment I would do is that communication system, and there is a task tracking system. So if Microsoft Teams support task tracking, that's perfectly fine. But if not, that you have to introduce a new system for task tracking, because I know that if the team works in one office, they can even share tasks with paper or just with emails, or just saying, hey Mike, can you add this button and make it blue? Yes, sure, I can, and just doing this. And this is absolutely not acceptable for remote teams. So the communication tools, this is the one thing. Of course, you can use what you have, but task tracking systems, this is Jira. And so if it's not yet there, you have to use anything.
Well, I mean, if we just focusing on the theme for today, I'm thinking about what can work really fast, because there are people who just have to come into it now, and I just need your experience on what works fast, because I don't know how easy it is to set up Jira. I don't know. Maybe they have, I don't know, security concerns or.
Well, fast. Like just now, the best way is just to use a Trello boards where you can track tasks. So this is for task tracking. If task tracking wasn't in the process yet, the Trello works for the beginning really good.
Check out the show notes at www.trainingtree.de. This is the 4th trailer episode of the English Coach Podcast, number 20, leading up to the launch of Season 2. This episode is self-sponsored and brought to you by yours truly. I met Sasha in 2019 at a meetup event in Berlin. I was struck by what I then perceived as a certain honest aura about him, and inspired by what he was doing. Maybe because it speaks to facilitating a certain freedom that, to the best of my knowledge, many people from all walks of life yearn for. Sasha is also a podcaster, and truth be told, I had at the time already pre recorded many of the episodes that now feature in season 1 of my show. The artistic part of me is sometimes perfectionist, and were it not for his words simply said, I'd perhaps still be sitting on them, afraid to publish and worrying too much about the notions of perfection of others. Sasha's words in summer 2019 were simply, the sooner you start, the sooner you'll be able to say that you were someone who did. We've been friends ever since. No, there's so many concerns. Yes, people are afraid. People are so afraid. As I said, I've also worked remotely. Yeah, I've also worked remotely, and for years and years, I've been telling people, come, you can try this remote option, and people up until now, a lot of people just weren't interested, but now we're forced to do that, and we have to think about things like the time management problems. Yes, how do we deal with the time management problems? The communication thing, we just spoke about the communication. We can still use what exists, like the Microsoft Teams, or you can implement Jira, right? But there are things like a lack of a proper routine, right? And work environment things, yes, lack of human interaction. Yes, how do all these things come into play?
Simple answer is that you plan those routines and you follow those plans. The very simple steps that you can do right now, or it's just plan a daily meeting in the morning. If you need in the evening, very quick. It's very important to keep timing, like not more than maybe 10 minutes, where you just catch up with the team and speak about plans, speak about what you did yesterday and what you plan to do. If if there are more people in the team and you can't make it in 10 minutes, just split teams to smaller groups somehow to regroup the team so that you can finish the meetings in 10 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes, or 10 minutes. 10 minutes, you said. You didn't say
Yeah,
15.
not more than 10 minutes.
That limit sounds very important, and well, you're definitely talking from experience here, and this actually touches on some other things that I wanted to ask you about, like what some people call video stress, yeah, which comes from just watching too many videos or taking part in too many conferences. The mistake a lot of people make now is that they try to do everything with conferencing, and what you're saying to me now is that we should try to limit that, yes, to 10 minutes. Yeah, that's true. Also what I said earlier about everything becoming like a presentation, the stress of having to perform big tasks when all we need is just a little 10-minute meeting, what we did yesterday, what we're doing today, and what we plan to do tomorrow. If the group is too big, then you break it up into smaller groups. That's a solid tip that I think can work.
For example, what you mentioned for the video stress and conference, the too much conferencing, that's definitely true, and I still see this happening. But what I found could work is that you simply do not invite that much people to those conferences, because you can decide with the team leads. For example, if something really important, you can decide quickly with 2, 3 people in the call who are like all participate actively, create some decisions during this meeting, and then share it with the entire team. In this case, there will be no people just waiting for the conference to end or just sitting on the conference and browsing internet. This happens. I know this is the challenge. I don't know how to like exactly fix this, but there is one other side on this. Even those conferences are boring, and really they are boring. They
Boring is the word.
Yes, but they still useful because listening. So maybe this is kind of a thought and maybe tips. So you can so that the team on this conversation and long meetings, long presentations can just hear you, switch off microphone, switch off video, and just hear because hearing what's happening in this meeting is important, but it's boring to wait to the end of this meeting. So this kind of process that would allow you to just participate silently might work.
Okay, good. Now, one tip that sounds like one tip that I gave to someone recently. Again, the more we can agree on these tips, then it means that we can actually give these tips to other people to help them. Because I said to someone the other day, listen, you do not have to insist that everybody joins the conference with video. Just start with video and turn it off, maybe. And that is a little closer to what you're saying right now. And not everybody has to be actively under pressure to either say something or do something or even show themselves in the meeting. They can participate, as you said, silently.
Yes. This is particularly for the long meetings when the representation for the new concept, new ideas, and because from the other side, when you talk in person or three people in the team discussing a specific architecture challenge or implementing some feature using some libraries, and when you participate actively, that's perfectly fine to be with video and express your emotions there and just move your hands. That helps. So just set, I don't know, boundaries where you do this and this, and this should be, and this is the part of the onboarding, let's say. So you define what is good, what is not. This is your, I don't know, this is how the team works.
Understood. Now it's funny because you are actually touching on, of course I have my list of questions here to bring up, but you are naturally touching on a lot of things that I wanted to ask, because one of the next questions I wanted to ask about was body language. And well, yeah, let's not say body language. It is like deciding on what form of communication works best for whatever thing you're doing. This ties in 100% with your onboarding idea. For example, let's see, I'm just going to read here. It says here, think about what mode of communication works best for what kind of material. For example, email, video, chat, telephoning, or in person. Well, you might not have in person, but what works best? Because what I understand from what you're saying is that the long meetings that probably are discussing conceptual, or let's say, well, some of the longer meetings might require that you just listen. And then there are some other probably shorter meetings where it's more of a brainstorming thing, where naturally everybody has to, or everybody's invited then to take part. So just telling people the different kinds of meeting will help them to prepare, to either just sit and listen or to be ready to talk. All right. Now, another thing. Speaking of the ways of communication, there was also another video that I watched. A lot of this is not really not anything new. It's just like, or let's say, the same wisdom comes again and again in different forms. Our context for today is getting started quickly with remote working, and they were talking about, they use the metaphor recharging, and recharging in terms of, let's say, when you meet with someone personally, you you are recharging because you build up trust, you see the person, you know what is going on, so it's like charging your batteries. However, if you're taking part in only video conferencing, right, and you do not do things like lots of updates through chatting and so on, then your batteries go down, right? So what you're losing power because you don't know what is going on really, unless you either meet in person or do regular check-ins and chats, right? So it's this kind of managing of your energy level, right? So where this is leading, this question, the less formal chatting, yes, not presentations, not meetings, and not discussing strategy or anything like that, but the less formal things like hello, how are you doing, yeah. Where does that kind of communication take place? Is it in Slack, or is it with, where does the informal stuff happen?
Yes, it goes to Slack mostly right now. The Microsoft Teams, this is the equivalent, they have the same software for communication, for chat, for group chat. And the interesting thing about this charging and recharging your power from work, what I found, this is personally for me. I'm not sure that how this works, like maybe on a scale, but what I found is that the communication, when you build communication and environment in the team that is built on a transparency, on a trust, then this all communication, then this all behavior for the team, this remote, it takes less energy, and you just feel better when everything, how how it's possible. This is depend on, actually maybe this comes from the business. So how the transparent business is, how the transparent communication, relationships in the team. So the more trust and transparency in the teams, the less it takes your energy. So when you can build that kind of team spirit, so then it's just more easier. And this leads, as you mentioned, this leads to more informal communication in chats. And specifically for developers, for example, when it goes just to the very specific physical things, it works. Emojis works. This is I like using emojis, and I promote using it for developers because it's easy, it's fast, and it doesn't require thinking about what to answer. I like this kind of virtual communication because it allows to express developers who sometimes, or maybe in a lot of times, are introverts and doesn't open don't open for for the very open informal communication.
I am having again another what I call a goosebumps moment, when I get these little bumps on my skin because I'm really excited. I feel very good about that because in the last episode, I said to someone trying to get his team into the remote working, let's say, paradigm. And I said to him, listen, you have to tell your people to use emojis. And he found it really funny, right? He took it seriously. But when I said to him, listen, you have to use emojis because not because of introverts. He doesn't have a problem with introverted people. He's working with the performing arts, people who take the stage, even though some of them, they call themselves introverts, and maybe it's true, they hide behind the performance, which is an interesting thing. But I said to him, you do not have the benefit of body language and facial expression, so please use emojis because that's the only way we have to communicate emotion. When you cannot, we have to be fast, we have to be efficient, we have to be short with the things we write because we're managing time, and because we're so short, we have to use emojis. It's a serious thing.
Yes, you feel this kind of this is what you feel in the office when you say something and someone say, "Oh yeah, cool." You would not write this in chat. Like it's too less to write some sentence.
Oh man. All right, you know what? There is what we call the 2080 rule, yeah. I also spoke about that in the last podcast. I think I should let's just leave off that right now because you have mentioned a lot of good points. I will put them together in a nice way that they can help people, to hit the ground running, as we say, start with this really fast, and we know some of the things that work, right? So, but I do have 2 or 3 more questions for you, right? Some of us are struggling right now with, you know, yeah, friends and family. I know you have a lovely daughter, Zoe. Is that how you pronounce her name? Yeah. You have a lovely daughter. She's at home with you. You're home with your partner and everything. How do you coordinate that now with working from home with family? How do you stay in contact with friends?
Um, so this is challenging. I would not maybe share any tips, just experience. I'm not sure that because I'm failing on this. Let's say I'm just a regular person on this, and definitely I wait for the evening hours to work. This works for me. I can work more on evening and early morning hours when my family is sleeping. So this is one tip. It's obvious, kind of. um, this works well. It's also when you work at home, what I experience is that you can focus. Actually, right now you can focus more on work because the responsibility that you feel that you you was given a trust by the employer, for example, because you work from home, maybe because of the some environment things, but still you're working from home, and your team expect that you will provide like maybe good productivity. You still will be productive, so you can focus more. This actually this works for me. I understand that I have to be more focused because I have less time, less silent time at home right now. It also gives the I don't know. I just the good thing I spend more time with the family, and I actually started enjoying this maybe on the third week, like because it comes to you slowly, and you suddenly understand that well you're with your family. You see how your daughter is growing, and you see this every day and for a long hours. And initially I started to think well I can do this, I can do this, my daughter is moving me there, play again, and then I suddenly understand that oh that's not that bad.
All right. Well, you know what? I am glad again that you mentioned that, Sasha, because I wanted to come back to what you said about the trust and the transparency and the culture that exists within a company, or the culture that you build, right? All of these things speaking to the quality of informal communication that happens. These are all pluses for remote working and the situation within which we find ourselves right now. You are also mentioning time with your family as being a plus from this situation. I'm trying today to focus a little more on the doability of all of this. These are some of the positive things that will come out of this crisis that we're facing. You also mentioned just a minute ago that you now enjoy a little more time with your family, a little more time with your daughter. You can experience her growing up and so on. There are some challenges, but it's still a good thing, right? You're finding your way to deal with these challenges. You're working in the morning, you're working in the evening when she's probably not there to disrupt you or to disturb you so much. But generally speaking, it's a positive thing and it's doable.
It's doable. Yes, it's doable. And if you can build even if you can build the like the working place at your home that work I think even better during a day, that because we work from home right now kind of not planned, because typically I work from out of co-working space, like mostly from co-working, and now I have to work from home. So if someone is prepared for this, then it could be better experience in terms of work, I mean, in terms of working.
It can be, can be. All right. Well, I consider myself some kind of professional with remote working, but mostly for training. Um, you know the companies that sometimes work with remote developers, right? And maybe you've also met some companies that decided not to work with remote developers. But now in this time of crisis, we've spoken about a lot of things. What would be your advice to any small or medium or large company now? What's your advice to them so that they can start with this really quickly? How could you sum that up?
Well, the thing is, those companies, they put into an environment where they should do this. So they should be open for new options, like to take anything, any tutorials, any ideas and tips, and just test them, but not to run fast. Like this crisis, it makes a lot of people trying to do something fast. What I would recommend is to do slowly. Still, like nothing will change even if the productivity will go down for a while. No, not bad. It actually will go down for a while. That's definitely. Any company can build this process, can find their way to do this. This is the tip. Just not to do anything fast. Slowly. See how, like, let people live few weeks at home and just build the workspace and build the time like schedule where when they can work better and when it's not a good time, and then just slowly adapt your processes to that. And for us, it takes, for as I mentioned in the beginning, it took us maybe 1 year when we found the team configuration. We also changed some processes, and it's still evolving. It's still in the process of building this process. So just no rush. Do small steps. Now the time that you shouldn't do anything fast, I think. Well, it's kind of tricky because the crisis, you kind of have to react fast, but then you shouldn't react so that it breaks you.
Yeah, I understand. That I understand from my point of view. But I mean, in adding to that though, Sasha, I mean, you are, as I said, you are a professional, yeah? I'm also some kind of a professional with remote training, okay? However, now you have hundreds of people, yeah, presenting themselves also as professionals. How do these companies tell the difference between you as a company providing your service and someone who just started yesterday? And why would they want to work with you instead of someone else who just started this thing yesterday?
The thing that we can, as a company, that we can provide to the companies that start to work remotely, what we provide access to remote developers, to remote software developers. And again, this is the question because the companies have to do things remotely right now, and they probably should keep existing employees.
Mm-hmm.
This is the challenge. And but if someone is going to grow their teams and how they can benefit from hiring remote, what the most important thing when they hire, for example, from our platform, is that they hire very experienced developers who used to work remotely, and they can be those glue that will connect different people, so they can connect, let's say, a management team with other developers, and they know how to communicate, they know how to interact remotely, so they can bring this experience, so that you can actually you have some expectation, and you can meet those expectations with the people when you hire them from the REINTECH, because all of them know how to work remotely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They are
And
they
they are
are used
prepared.
they are used to working remotely.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, I understand you. And well, many companies are probably now more open to the option, Yes, I'm not gonna say because they're forced to be, but who knows? Once they have opened their minds up to this possibility, maybe after this crisis, so to speak, they will be more open, more willing, more more able to give proper thought to the benefits that you are offering.
Exactly. And there are benefits. For example, just a quick note on the benefits. The access to the talents that you can hire remotely, it's really, really big. Like when you hire even someone through the service provider, through the company, you outsource to the company, then you are limited to that company. And when you work with the platform, you can choose different locations. This is kind of Airbnb where you can select anything from the garage to a villa. So you can choose and you see what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very important benefit that you can get hiring remote developers from platforms.
Understood. Yes, there are lots of people here who are, well, I wouldn't say lots, but there are probably two or three people that I know of who offer this kind of service. You know, the service. This the issue or the thing that usually comes up is the question of trust and reliability. Whereas people, of course, they have their concerns. You know, they're like, okay, there is this person who is sitting somewhere else. Maybe they don't feel as motivated as I do about my project. And they might ask themselves, what kind of quality controls? How do you ensure that a remote developer feels as motivated as I do?
So the first thing I would say is that this is the same question with the on-site developers.
Mm-hmm.
Like you also can be sure that the developer that's sitting right to you is that motivated. You can kind of feel it, but the same you feel this with remote. You when you do communication, you also can feel it. How we solve this? We vet those developers who came to us, and we actually leave only I think 15% of all applicants who apply to us. So we check their coding skills, we check their soft skills, how well they can manage themselves, how well they can communicate. So we do this pre-vetting or vetting. Then you can also check them yourself. And because we platform, how you can be sure about reliability and so because this person is reliable and will work, we actually take developers that are full-time developers, full-time employees. They just look for another jobs, and so they used to work as a full-time, long-term developers. And we act as an arbiter because we have the contract with developers and they are relying on us. So we have the open rules for all the sites, like for developers and for the customers. Working and providing good service, it's win-win for developer, for us, and for the client.
Okay, well, I think you answered the question nicely. Yes, also in a very competent manner, because you rightly said the question of quality and commitment and motivation to get the task done. Yes, someone might ask that question about someone who is working remotely, but you could be asking that same question about someone who is hired in your company. And
Exactly.
in this arrangement, as far as I understand, you spoke of a win-win situation. So there is personal interest in the success of every project because you have your own way of vetting and also controlling, ensuring that there is motivation to have success of each of each project. It would be nice to hear a little bit more about your vetting process. Yes, but yeah,
Mhm.
you said enough. I mean, the thing is, as we don't really have to get into that so deeply right now. I am confident. I'm confident. As I said, there are many people who are doing, or a few people who are doing the same thing, and I think you answered that question quite well. Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
yes, of course, of course, of course, of course. I mean, that should be enough to start with. All right. So, Sasha, I could ask you about the English vetting, as an English trainer myself, I could ask you, how do you vet their English skills?
Sure. This is the part of our vetting process, so we might have some conversation about this, definitely.
We probably should, one of these days, but not today. Today it's about giving people tools and
Yes.
tips that will help in overcoming this crisis, and we're gonna stick to that. Yeah, we just keep it simple.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to take this opportunity, sir, to thank you for having taken part today. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
That was a pleasure and nice conversation.
Yes, of course, thank you. And I mean, you have confirmed a lot of things that I thought from the beginning, from the first time we met. I had a feeling of trust, based on also, your whole aura. I think I told you that, I mean, you spoke of trust and I felt it and I believed it. And I've also seen your operation. It stands to reason from everything that I've seen that you can back up the promises you make.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you again, and bye bye, Patrick.
With a small win is always a good way to begin. Feel free to check out the show notes for this episode at www.trainingtree.de/podcast. Like it if you like it, and if you don't, lie to me. Just kidding. But still, feel free to share it with a friend, post a rating, or better yet, give meaning to the things you think about the show by using the feedback form to tell me personally what you think. This will help it to help you as it is intended to do. Subscribe only if you feel like, so you know when there's a new episode available. Thanks for listening. Looking forward to hearing from you, and bye for now.